The massive screens in Earth's Global Defense Command Center displayed the sneering faces of alien representatives. Captain James Reed stood tall, his weathered face showing no emotion as the alien diplomats continued their laughter. Next to him, Dr. Mary Wells clutched her data tablet tighter, her knuckles turning white. A seven-dimensional vessel. The Blue Ambassador's translator conveyed his mocking tone perfectly. Humans truly are entertaining. You barely mastered simple spaceflight a century ago, and now you claim to have achieved what the oldest races in the galaxy deemed impossible. Reed exchanged a quiet glance with Dr. Wells. They had expected this reaction, but experiencing it firsthand still stung. The project they had dedicated 5 years to was being dismissed as a joke by the entire Galactic Council. Admiral Stone stepped forward, his gray uniform crisp and authoritative. The Archimedes project is not a claim. It is an achievement. We are announcing it as a courtesy to the Council, not seeking permission. This only triggered more laughter from the alien representatives. The Red Ambassador, representing the powerful Centauri Empire, leaned forward in his floating chair. Perhaps humans should focus on maintaining their small colony on Mars before dreaming of impossible technologies. Your species always reaches too far, too fast. Dr. Wells cleared her throat. If I may explain the principles behind our breakthrough. We have reviewed your submitted documents. The Green Ambassador interrupted. Your mathematics is flawed. The energy requirements alone would tear your ship apart. The Council has 10,000 years of spacefaring experience. Do you truly believe your infant species has discovered something we missed? In the back of the room, Engineer Tom Foster whispered to Navigator Alice Cooper, "They're not even trying to understand it." Alice nodded, her eyes fixed on the growing tension at the front of the chamber. Reed stepped forward. The Archimedes launches in 1 week. We invited the Council to witness humanity's advancement, not to seek validation. His voice remained steady, professional, but carried an edge of steel that made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably. The Blue Ambassador's tentacles rippled in what humans had learned was their equivalent of a dismissive wave. The Council will send observers, if only to document this attempt. It should prove educational for other young races who need to learn about technological limitations. After the transmission ended, Admiral Stone turned to his team. The command center hummed with the usual activity, but everyone was listening. Well, that went exactly as expected. Dr. Wells brought up a holographic display of the Archimedes. The ship's sleek design was unlike anything humanity had built before. Its surface seemed to shift and flow, the special alloys designed to handle the stresses of seven-dimensional space, creating an almost liquid appearance. They think we're using the same principles as their 4D drives, she explained, highlighting various sections of the ship. They can't grasp that we've taken a completely different approach. Their mathematics isn't wrong. It's just limited. Reed watched the hologram rotate. The Archimedes is ready. Final systems checked tomorrow, Engineer Foster reported. We've run every possible simulation. The 7D drive works exactly as Dr. Wells predicted. Navigator Cooper stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. The test jumps in the Kuiper belt proved the theory. We can do this. Admiral Stone looked at each member of his team. These were the people who would change humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council's mockery works in our favor. They'll be too busy laughing to interfere. By the time they realize what we've actually achieved. He let the sentence hang. Reed nodded. By then, it will be too late to stop us. Humanity will have its seat at the galactic table, whether they like it or not. As the team dispersed to continue their preparations, Dr. Wells remained, studying the hologram of her creation. 5 years of work, countless setbacks, and constant doubt from both humans and aliens alike. But she knew she was right. The mathematics didn't lie. In 1 week, the laughter would stop, and the galaxy would never be the same. 2 years earlier, Dr. Mary Wells stood in her dimly lit lab, staring at equations that covered every surface. The cleaning staff had long since given up trying to erase her whiteboard drawings. Her discovery started with a simple question. Why did alien ships still need to move through space at all? The memory played in her mind as she now walked through the Archimedes engine room with Engineer Foster. I remember the exact moment it clicked, she said, running her hand along the smooth surface of the 7D drive housing. Every alien race was so focused on moving faster through space that they never thought about moving through dimensions instead. Foster nodded, checking readings on his tablet. Like trying to drive faster on a road when you could just step over to the next street. Exactly. Dr. Wells smiled. The engineer had a way of making complex ideas sound simple. The aliens mastered four-dimensional travel, treating time as another direction. But they never looked higher. Their conversation paused as Admiral Stone entered with 3 government officials. The officials wore plain black suits and carried high-level security badges. One of them, Mr. Wilson, spoke first. Dr. Wells, we need another demonstration. The President wants final confirmation before next week's launch. Dr. Wells walked to a control panel and pressed several buttons. In the center of the engine room, a small metal cube appeared inside a clear testing chamber. This is a normal 3-dimensional object, she explained. Watch what happens when we activate a partial 7D field. The cube began to shimmer. Suddenly, it existed in multiple places at once. Not copies, but the same cube occupying different points in space simultaneously. The officials gasped. In 7 dimensions, the concept of here and there becomes meaningless, Dr. Wells continued. The cube exists everywhere it could possibly be within the field's range. When we apply this to the Archimedes, we can be anywhere we want. Foster finished. Instantly. Mr. Wilson leaned closer to the chamber. And the aliens can't stop this. Their shields and weapons only work in 4 dimensions, Admiral Stone explained. It's like trying to stop a ghost with a physical wall. In another part of the ship, Captain Reed and Navigator Cooper were running final simulations. The ship's bridge stretched before them, its design unlike anything in the human or alien fleets. Instead of traditional controls, curved displays showed 7-dimensional space in ways the human mind could barely comprehend. The Centauri Empire's ships are gathering near Jupiter, Cooper reported, studying the readouts. They're trying to look casual about it. Reed smiled slightly. Not casual enough. They're worried. Should they be? Cooper asked, adjusting the simulation parameters. Yes, Reed replied simply, but not for the reasons they think. The simulation showed the Archimedes splitting into multiple quantum states, existing in several places simultaneously. Cooper's fingers danced over the controls, coordinating the ship's position across 7 dimensions. It's beautiful, she whispered. The way space folds when we transit, like watching the universe turn inside out. Back in the engine room, Dr. Wells was finishing her demonstration. The cube had been returned to normal space, and the officials were scribbling rapid notes. One last thing, she said, her voice turning serious. The aliens aren't entirely wrong about the energy requirements. A 7-dimensional field should be impossible to maintain. That's why they never pursued it. But you solved it, Foster added proudly. Dr. Wells nodded. Nature already did. Every particle in the universe exists in all dimensions. We just couldn't see it before. The Archimedes doesn't generate a 7D field. It reveals one that's already there. Admiral Stone watched the officials' expressions change from confusion to understanding. That's why it works. We're not fighting physics. We're finally seeing it clearly. As the group left the engine room, Foster turned to Dr. Wells. They still don't fully understand what we've built, do they? No one does, she replied quietly. Not even us. Not really. We're about to step through a door that no one in the galaxy even knew existed. Above them, through the ship's transparent ceiling panels, Earth's sky was darkening into evening. Somewhere up there, alien ships waited, sure of their superiority, certain of the natural order of things. In 5 days, that certainty would shatter forever. The meeting chamber of the Galactic Council's local embassy was supposed to be neutral ground. Captain Reed knew that idea had just shattered as he watched alien security forces surround his team. The blue ambassador's facial tentacles writhed with barely contained anger. "You will share the drive specifications," the ambassador demanded. His translator crackled with static from his agitation. "The Council has ruled that seven-dimensional technology is too dangerous to remain in human hands alone." Dr. Wells stood her ground, even as alien guards moved closer. "We came here to discuss cooperation, not surrender our research." "Cooperation?" The Red Ambassador's laugh held no humor. "Your species is barely out of its cradle. You cannot be trusted with such power." Engineer Foster's tablet suddenly beeped. He glanced down, then quietly showed it to Reed. The captain's expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened. The Archimedes security systems had detected unauthorized access attempts. "While we're talking here," Reed said calmly, "your ships are trying to hack our vessel." The Green Ambassador waved a dismissive limb. "A standard security scan, nothing more." Navigator Cooper, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "Standard scan. Is that why 3 Centauri battlecruisers just dropped out of FTL near the Archimedes?" The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Admiral Stone, watching from Earth via secure hologram, spoke up. "This meeting is over. Captain Reed, get our people out of there." "You will remain," the Blue Ambassador stated. Armed guards moved to block the exits, "until we have assessed this technology properly." Reed smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Actually, we won't." He tapped his wrist communicator twice. "Foster, now." A soft hum filled the room. The alien guards raised their weapons, then froze in confusion as their targets seemed to blur, existing in multiple places at once. "Portable 7D field generator," Dr. Wells explained, her voice echoing from several locations simultaneously. "Just a prototype. Interesting effect, isn't it?" The aliens fired their weapons. Energy bolts passed harmlessly through the shifting human forms. Reed's team appeared to be everywhere and nowhere at once, their bodies phasing between dimensional states. "Impossible," the Red Ambassador shouted. "The energy requirements alone should tear us apart." Foster's voice came from multiple points in space. "You really should update your physics books." Back on the Archimedes, alarms blared. The Centauri ships had launched boarding pods. They slammed against the hull, magnetic clamps engaging, then passed straight through, their 4-dimensional matter unable to grip the ship's 7-dimensional surface. Admiral Stone's hologram showed him receiving urgent reports. "Captain, the Centauri ships are charging weapons. Get back here now." "Working on it," Reed replied from 3 different positions in the council chamber. He nodded to Dr. Wells. "Time to show them what else your prototype can do." Dr. Wells pulled a small device from her pocket. It pulsed with a soft, blue light. "This will be slightly disorienting," she warned her teammates. The world shifted, colors bent in impossible ways as 7-dimensional space folded around them. The alien guards and ambassadors watched in shock as the humans simply ceased to exist in normal space. They reappeared instantly on the Archimedes bridge. Cooper rushed to her station, fingers flying over the controls. "Centauri ships are in firing position." "Let them fire," Reed ordered, dropping into his command chair. "Dr. Wells, full power to the drive." The first Centauri blast struck and passed through the ship completely. On their screens, they could see the confusion on the alien vessels as their sensors tried to lock onto something that existed in more dimensions than they could track. "Sir," Foster called from engineering, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The Council is demanding our surrender." Reed looked at his team. Each face showed determination, not fear. They had known this moment might come. The aliens would never accept humans as equals. They would never willingly share power. "Send them a message," he told Foster. "Tell them we're done talking." He turned to Dr. Wells. "Doctor, show them what the Archimedes can really do." Dr. Wells' fingers danced across her console. The ship's 7D drive hummed to life. not just bending space but transcending it. Around them, reality prepared to reshape itself. The real demonstration was about to begin. The Archimedes hummed with power as Dr. Wells initiated the full 7-dimensional drive sequence. On the bridge, reality itself seemed to bend around them. The stars visible through the view screens began to stretch, not in the familiar lines of normal space travel, but in ways that made the human mind struggle to understand. "All systems are ready," Engineer Foster reported, his voice steady despite the unprecedented event they were about to attempt. 7D field is stable and expanding. Captain Reed watched as the threatening Centauri ships suddenly looked less intimidating. From the Archimedes' new perspective, they seemed flat, limited, like paper cutouts floating in a vast ocean. "Begin the jump sequence, Navigator Cooper." "Beginning jump," Cooper answered. Her hands moved across the controls, which now glowed with an inner light. "Sir, I'm seeing everything. Every possible path we could take, every point in space we could reach." Dr. Wells smiled. "That's normal. In 7 dimensions, all points in space exist simultaneously relative to our position. Choose our primary destination." The alien vessels opened fire again. Energy beams passed harmlessly through the Archimedes, which now existed in too many dimensions to be affected by their weapons. The ship's external cameras showed the growing panic on the alien bridges as their sensors failed to provide any meaningful data about their target. "They're broadcasting again," Foster announced. "The Galactic Council is. They're begging us to stop. They say the fabric of space-time wasn't meant to be manipulated this way." Reed's expression hardened. "They didn't care about what was meant to be when they tried to steal our technology." "Doctor, proceed." The jump began. Unlike the violent acceleration of alien ships entering hyperspace, the Archimedes simply shifted. Colors that had no names in any human language flowed across the hull. Crew members felt a strange sensation, as if they were everywhere and nowhere at once. "This is incredible," Cooper whispered. Through the ship's sensors, she could see layers of reality peeling away. "I can see every star, every planet. All at once. It's like the universe turned into a map where everything is equally close." Foster's console lit up with readings. "Doctor, the ship is existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously, just like in the tests, but on a massive scale. Normal space wasn't built to comprehend what we're doing," Dr. Wells explained, monitoring the drive's output. "We're not traveling through space anymore. We're stepping outside of it entirely." The alien ships grew more desperate. They launched everything they had: missiles, energy weapons, even attempts at short-range teleportation attacks. Nothing could touch the Archimedes now. The ship floated serenely, partially phased out of normal reality. "Ready for full dimensional shift," Dr. Wells announced. "Captain, once we do this, there's no going back. The aliens will know exactly what we're capable of." Reed nodded. They wanted a demonstration. "Let's give them one they'll never forget." He turned to Cooper. "Navigator, take us to all planned coordinates." Simultaneously, Cooper's fingers danced across her controls. "All coordinates locked in, sir. Will exist at every point we've selected." At the same time, the Archimedes shimmered, its hull taking on an impossible geometric pattern. Then, in a display that would change galactic politics forever, the ship split its existence across space. It appeared simultaneously at every major military installation in Centauri space, at the Galactic Council headquarters, and at 5 other strategic locations. Not as copies, it was the same ship, existing in multiple places at once. Through their monitors, they could see the chaos erupting at each location. Alien sensors overloaded trying to understand what they were seeing. Defense systems crashed as they attempted to target a vessel that defied the laws of physics as they understood them. "All positions stabilized," Cooper reported, wonder in her voice. "We're successfully maintaining presence at all coordinates." Foster checked his readings. 7D field is holding steady. Power consumption is actually lower than predicted. The doctor's theory was right. We're not fighting against reality. We're working with it. On their screens, they could see alien ships scrambling, military bases going into lockdown, and the Galactic Council chambers erupting into panic. The message was clear. Humanity had not just matched alien technology, they had surpassed it completely. Reed allowed himself a small smile. Send the message to all locations, Foster. A simple text transmission went out from every instance of the Archimedes. Now shall we discuss cooperation as equals. The Galactic Council's main chamber had never been so quiet. Through each version of the Archimedes, Captain Reed could see the same scene playing out. Alien representatives frozen in shock, their mockery replaced by silent terror. The ship maintained its impossible existence at multiple points in space, a feat that shattered everything they thought they knew about physics. "Sir," Engineer Foster called from his station, "we're receiving transmission requests from, well, everywhere. Every major species wants to talk." Reed nodded. "Put the council chairman on the main screen. Let's hear what they have to say now." The massive display lit up with the council chairman's face. The beam's usual golden color had faded to a pale yellow. "Captain Reed," the translator conveyed a trembling voice, "your demonstration is most impressive." "Impressive." Dr. Wells stepped forward, her voice carrying to all locations where the Archimedes existed. "Yesterday, you called it impossible. Your ships tried to steal our technology. Your guards tried to imprison us." The chairman's tentacles drooped in what humans had learned was a sign of submission. "We may have acted hastily. Perhaps we could discuss." "Incoming." Cooper's warning cut through the conversation. "Multiple Centauri warships dropping out of FTL at 3 of our locations." Reed didn't even flinch. "Let them come. Doctor, show them what else we can do." Dr. Wells typed a series of commands into her console. The Archimedes hull began to shift, its 7-dimensional field expanding in new ways. The approaching Centauri ships suddenly found themselves firing at a target that existed both in front of and behind them simultaneously. "How is this possible?" The Red Ambassador's voice cut into the transmission, panic evident in his tone. "Our sensors show you're inside our ship's shields. 7 dimensions allows us to exist anywhere," Dr. Wells explained calmly. "Your shields only work in 4 dimensions. To us, they might as well not exist at all." To demonstrate her point, one version of the Archimedes passed straight through a Centauri battlecruiser, existing in the same space without either ship being affected. The alien crew's panic was visible through their viewport. Foster's console beeped with new data. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum field changes. The aliens are trying to track our dimensional shifts." "Let them try," Reed replied. "Doctor, initiate Phase 2. Dr. Wells smiled. Gladly. Her fingers danced across the controls. "Navigator Cooper, prepare for dimensional overlay." The Archimedes began to glow with an inner light that seemed to bend in impossible ways. At each location where it existed, the ship started to reveal more of its capabilities. It didn't just exist in multiple places. It began to affect the very fabric of space-time around it. "What are you doing?" the council chairman demanded, real fear now evident in his voice. "Showing you why cooperation would be better than conflict," Reed answered. Dr. Wells activated the final sequence. Around each version of the Archimedes, space itself became malleable. Alien sensors went crazy as they detected paths and dimensions they had never known existed. "We can create dimensional pockets," Dr. Wells explained to the stunned audience. "We can move through time as easily as space. Your weapons can't touch us, your shields can't stop us, and your sensors can't track us." Cooper's hands moved steadily over her controls. "Sir, I'm detecting attempts to scan our technology at all locations." "Let them scan," Reed said. "They won't understand what they're seeing." Dr. Wells wrote the equations in 7 dimensions. Their computers can only think in 4. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers as the Archimedes demonstrated one final ability. The ship created a dimensional bubble that temporarily phased an entire Centauri battle fleet into another dimension, then brought them back unharmed but thoroughly shaken. This is beyond anything. The chairman's translator struggled to convey his awe. Humanity has achieved something we thought impossible. Not impossible, Dr. Wells corrected. We just looked at the universe differently. Now shall we discuss real cooperation? As equals. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of the Red Ambassador's ceremonial staff clattering to the floor. One by one, the council members who had laughed at humanity's claims just days ago began to signal their agreement. Reed allowed himself a small smile. The balance of power had shifted forever, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the Archimedes continued to exist across multiple points in space, Dr. Wells noticed something unexpected on her monitors. The seven-dimensional field was doing more than just allowing them to exist in multiple places. It was showing them the true nature of the universe itself. "Captain," she called, her voice tight with excitement. "I need you to see this." Reed moved to her station, where complex patterns danced across the screen. Even in their simplified form, they revealed something extraordinary. "What are we looking at, Doctor?" "The universe's source code," she said quietly. "The seven-dimensional space isn't just another layer of reality. It's where reality itself is written." Foster's console suddenly lit up. "Sir, you need to see this too. The 7D field it's learning, adapting, growing stronger." Through the ship's multiple viewpoints, they could see the alien fleets still frozen in confusion. The Centauri Empire's mighty warships looked like toys now, their advanced technology as primitive as stone tools compared to what the Archimedes was becoming. "Navigator Cooper," Reed called, "can you still track all our positions?" Cooper's hands moved across her controls, but her eyes were wide with wonder. "Yes, sir. But there's more. I can see paths. Not just through space, but through possibility itself." Dr. Wells rushed to Cooper's station. "Of course," she breathed. "Seven dimensions don't just give us access to all points in space. They let us see all potential realities." The council chairman's image still filled the main screen, along with views from every location where the Archimedes existed. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Our sensors detect energy patterns unlike anything in recorded history. Your sensors were built to detect four-dimensional events," Dr. Wells explained. "They can't begin to understand what they're seeing, but I can show you." She pressed a sequence of commands. Around each version of the Archimedes, reality seemed to ripple. The ship wasn't just phasing through matter anymore. It was rewriting the local laws of physics themselves. "Impossible," the Red Ambassador shouted. "No technology can alter fundamental constants." "In 4 dimensions, no," Foster replied, checking his readings. "But we're not limited to 4 dimensions anymore. Doctor, these power readings, they're infinite but stable." "How?" "Because we're not generating power anymore," Dr. Wells said, her voice filled with awe. "We're channeling it from the fundamental structure of the universe itself. The 7D drive isn't just an engine. It's a key that unlocks reality." To demonstrate, she activated a new sequence. Around one version of the Archimedes, gravity reversed itself. Around another, time flowed backward for 30 seconds. At a third location, the ship created a pocket universe complete with its own physical laws. The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated power they had never dreamed possible. Their mighty empires, built on the mastery of 4 dimensions, suddenly seemed small and limited. "Captain," Cooper called, "I'm detecting attempts at dimensional replication. 3 different alien fleets are trying to copy our technology." Reed almost smiled. "Let them try, Doctor." "Their attempts will fail," Dr. Wells confirmed. "They're trying to understand 7 dimensions through 4-dimensional mathematics. It's like trying to explain color to a blind person using only numbers." The Archimedes pulsed with energy that defied description. At each point where it existed, the fabric of reality gently parted around it. showing glimpses of higher dimensions that no alien race had ever seen. "We offer peace," Reed announced to all locations simultaneously. "We offer cooperation and shared progress. But understand this, the era of treating humanity as a junior species is over." To emphasize his point, Dr. Wells activated one final demonstration. Every version of the Archimedes briefly phased into the seventh dimension, becoming pure mathematics given form. For a moment, the alien races saw reality as humans now could see it, an infinite canvas of possibility, waiting to be reshaped. When the ship returned to normal space, the silence was absolute. The mighty races of the galaxy finally understood. They weren't dealing with a young species that had made a lucky breakthrough. They were witnessing the birth of something entirely new. 1 month after the Archimedes demonstration, the Great Hall of Earth stood packed with representatives from every known species in the galaxy. The same aliens who had once laughed at humanity now sat in respectful silence as Captain Reed took the podium. The Archimedes floated above the hall, existing simultaneously at different heights, a constant reminder of humanity's breakthrough. Its hull shimmered with seven-dimensional energy, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "When we first announced our achievement," Reed began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall, "you laughed. You mocked. You tried to steal what you didn't understand. Now, you come seeking partnership." Dr. Wells stood nearby, her tablet showing the latest data from the 7D drive. In the past month, they had discovered even more applications than they had initially imagined. The technology wasn't just changing space travel, it was revolutionizing their understanding of the universe itself. The council chairman rose from his seat, his golden scales gleaming in the light. "Humanity has proven itself beyond any doubt. We offer not just partnership, but leadership. The Galactic Council wishes to create a new position, head of dimensional research, and offer it to Earth." Engineer Foster, monitoring the Archimedes from his station, smiled as he remembered the mockery from just weeks ago. Now, 300 alien worlds had already requested permission to establish research stations on Earth. "We accept your offer," Reed continued, "but with conditions. The technology we've developed is too powerful to be used without responsibility. Navigator Cooper will explain our proposal." Cooper stepped forward, her uniform crisp and formal. The same aliens who had once dismissed her species now leaned forward eagerly to hear her words. "The Archimedes project has shown us that the universe is far more complex than any of us imagined," she began. "Seven-dimensional space isn't just another layer of reality. It's the foundation of everything. We propose creating a new dimensional science academy, open to all species who wish to learn." Dr. Wells took over the explanation. "But this knowledge must be earned, not stolen or misused. Each species must prove they understand the responsibilities that come with this power." The Red Ambassador, who had once led the attempt to steal their technology, stood up. "And who will judge if we are worthy?" "The technology itself," Dr. Wells replied with a slight smile. "Seven-dimensional equations can only be understood by those who approach them with the right mindset. You can't force this knowledge. You can't steal it. You can only learn it by understanding the true nature of reality." To demonstrate, she activated a small 7D field generator. The air above the podium shimmered, showing equations that seemed to move in impossible ways. The alien scientists in the audience gasped as they realized the mathematics itself was alive, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "This is our offer," Reed announced. "Not conquest, not dominance, but shared growth. Humanity will lead the way into a new era of discovery, but we will not walk this path alone." The council chairman spoke again, his translator conveying genuine emotion. "A month ago, we thought we knew the limits of possible technology. You showed us how wrong we were. What other wonders might we discover together?" Foster's console beeped with an incoming message. "Captain, the first group of alien students has already arrived at the academy. They're ready to begin learning." Reed nodded, then turned back to the assembled representatives. The universe is not what any of us thought it was. The laws of physics we took for granted are just the surface of a deeper reality. We invite you all to explore this reality with us, to learn what the seventh dimension can teach us. Above them, the Archimedes continued its impossible existence, a bridge between old understanding and new possibilities. The ship that had turned laughter into awe now represented something even greater, the moment when all species began to see the true nature of the universe. Welcome, Reed concluded, to the beginning of our shared journey. The hall erupted in applause, not the mocking laughter of before, but genuine appreciation and hope. As Dr. Wells watched the celebration, she smiled, knowing that this was just the start. The seventh dimension had opened a door, and through it lay infinite possibilities. Humanity had not just earned its place among the stars. It had shown the galaxy a whole new way to shine.